Greetings, kindred friend. Try to imagine a quiet morning when you sit alone by the familiar window. You look back at the journey of decades of your life, and a silent question suddenly throbs in your chest. I have spent my whole youth sacrificing for my family, always putting everyone before myself. But why now? It seems like there is nothing left for me. When young, we often silently write an invisible contract in our minds that if we give enough, if we care well enough, then that love and devotion will return exactly the way we expect. However, as time passes, children have their own horizons. The world out there rushes by, and we are stunned to realize a cruel truth. The love given is not always reciprocated the way we envisioned. The Buddha taught that attachment to expectation is exactly the loophole for suffering to creep into the soul. Perhaps old age is not the time for us to languish, waiting for recognition or demanding affection from others. This is exactly the sacred time for you to learn how to recall your energy and protect your own island of peace. In today's journey, we will together explore the art of stopping expectation to return true freedom to the heart. Walk with me to see that when you stop waiting for a hand from the outside, you will realize your own two hands are the most peaceful harbor. Lesson 1. The Illusion of Reciprocation. Dear friend, there is a silent belief that roots very deep in our consciousness. That is, the belief in reciprocity. Throughout our lives, we are taught that if we sow goodness, we will receive kindness. If we sow loyalty, we will receive attachment. And if we sow sacrifice, we will receive gratitude. Inadvertently, we have turned acts of pure love into an invisible contract. We give, but deep in our hearts we silently open a debt ledger, waiting for the day the world and our loved ones pay in full. However, this universe operates according to a law that the Buddha called anicca impermanence. Impermanence means everything shifts, people change, circumstances change, and even the closest relationships fluctuate according to its rhythm. Look at the story of a father that I once had the fate to know. He spent his whole life as a soldier, then a worker, not minding any hardship to raise his children into adults. With every drop of sweat falling, he told himself, "One day when I am old and weak, my children will surely be my support. They will gather around me the way I have been with them." This is exactly the contract he wrote himself. But when old age arrives, reality appears according to a different script. His children are successful, but they are also swept away by the fast-paced rhythm of life in distant cities. Phone calls become sparse. Family meals are only brief holidays. That father lies in the darkness, feeling betrayed and bitter. But dear friend, the liberating truth is this: his children do not necessarily not love him. They are just absorbed in living their own lives exactly as the law of life requires. The father's pain does not come from the children's heartlessness, but comes from the shattering of the contract of expectation that he always held. Engrave this truth into your heart. Suffering never comes from how much you have given. It only comes from what you desire to receive back. I invite you to perform a revolution in your mind tonight. Tear up that debt contract. When you give without waiting for reciprocation, you will see you are no longer a beggar asking for affection, but become an ocean of tolerance. We give because that is our kind nature. Just like a flower radiates fragrance because it is a flower, not to hope passers-by will praise it. When you stop expecting, the world will no longer owe you anything, and that is exactly when you find absolute freedom. Lesson 2. Recalling energy. When you become the only priority. For decades, we consider putting ourselves last as a virtue. We assume that sacrifice is the measure of love. But dear friend, when stepping into the twilight of life, a silent truth will reveal itself. If you do not recall your own source of energy yourself, no one will do that for you. The world will still continue to demand, loved ones will still continue to need you, until the lamp inside you is only a flickering spark. I want to tell you about an old teacher. He spent a full 40 years standing on the podium, bringing all his dedication and strength to water thousands of generations of students. When retirement day came, he stood in the middle of the silent house and felt like an empty cup. Everything he had was completely poured into the lives of others. One afternoon, he accidentally found the dusty old violin lying in the attic, the thing he was once passionate about, but had set aside the day he started his teaching career. In the early days of holding the bow again, his hands trembled. The notes rang out completely clumsy and grating. But strangely, every time the music rose, he felt a strange vital energy flowing back into his heart. He realized that all along, music did not need to serve any performance. It only existed to nourish his soul. Dear friend, the greatest lesson that teacher teaches us is exactly, not every joy in this world must be useful to others. There are joys existing only to heal and water yourself. Old age is not the time we wait to fade away, but the final and most brilliant opportunity for you to reclaim the parts of yourself that were once chased into the dark corners. It could be an old hobby, a silence you have always longed for, or simply the right to refuse unnecessary noises. Tonight, silently tell yourself, I allow myself to take care of myself. I recall energy from the world to light up the inner temple. When you become complete, you are not selfish at all. You are becoming a sturdy lighthouse, not by draining yourself, but by shining from a full and peaceful source of energy. Lesson 3. The power of silence, when words do not need to be weapons. Dear friend, look back at the vibrant years of youth that have passed. Was it that then we always longed to speak up? We argued to prove ourselves right. We used sharp words to defend our viewpoints, and sometimes we tried to mold others' thoughts according to our will. We believed that victory in an argument was the way to affirm our own value. However, when stepping into the twilight of human life, a silent truth begins to appear clearly. Most people listen not to understand, but to reply. We rarely realize that, no matter how much we explain, no matter how sharp the logic is, the person opposite is still just waiting for the moment we stop speaking to pour out their own prejudices. At that moment, our words become meaningless, and the only thing remaining is the exhaustion of the soul. The Buddha left a wise lesson on right speech. He taught us that we should only open our mouths when those words pass through 3 doors. Is it truthful? Is it kind? And most importantly, is it truly necessary at this time? If words do not bring construction, choose to keep the sacred silence. I want to tell you the story of a respected old scholar. One day, he was challenged by an arrogant young student right in the middle of a crowd. He poured out bitter words, deliberately demeaning the master's intellect to show off himself. The crowd held its breath, waiting for a fiery response. But when he finished in triumph, the old master merely smiled slightly, his eyes as tolerant as an autumn lake. He gently said, "Thank you for sharing your thoughts." Then he quietly turned his back and walked away, leaving the noise behind his back. That scholar did not lose. He won the greatest victory, the proactive retention of peace for himself. Tonight, I invite you to perform a transformation in consciousness. Realize that you have no obligation to participate in every argument, nor do you need to explain yourself to people who have already closed their hearts. Silence is not weakness, but a shield protecting your inner temple. When you stop using words as a weapon to attack or defend, you will feel a flow of relieved energy spreading. Let your peace speak instead of any explanation. Sleep in the sovereignty of a soul that has known how to remain magnificently silent before the agitations of the human world. Lesson 4. Observing instead of intervening. The art of trust. In the twilight years, with an accumulated treasure trove of experience, we often tend to want to become the guide. We see children stumble, see loved ones make mistakes, and the instinct rises, urging us to speak up, to advise, to correct them. We believe we are saving them from the sufferings we once tasted. However, dear friend, there is a bitter truth that wisdom will teach us. Wisdom given when not requested is rarely appreciated. Imagine the image of a caterpillar struggling to escape from a cramped cocoon. Seeing it struggling painfully, We generate pity and want to use small scissors to cut the mouth of the cocoon, helping it get out more easily. However, that action is actually a cruel deprivation. For the wings to be sturdy and fly high, the butterfly is forced to go through that crampedness and pain by itself. If you help it out too early, that butterfly will forever carry crippled wings and can never touch the sky. Likewise, everyone around you has their own cocoon. Those are the lessons their souls are forced to experience themselves to mature. I want to tell you the story of a son who spent many years trying to stop his father from a gambling habit. He used all sorts of methods, from sincere advice, fiery arguments, to rational persuasion. But all his intervention efforts only made the relationship between the two father and son more fractured, and the father still did not change at all. Finally, the son realized he was expending his entire peace on an unwinnable battle. He decided to stop. He stopped intervening, stopped judging, and focused completely on building a happy, sturdy life of his own. Many years passed. Upon seeing the son living an awakened and peaceful life, the father only then recognized for himself the losses caused by the old habit. He stepped out of the cocoon himself because he saw the light from his son's lamp. Our journey tonight is to learn how to step back to become a tolerant observer. Trust in the process of the universe. You do not need to be the repairer of the world. The greatest contribution you can give to loved ones is exactly your own peace. When you stop intervening, you are giving them an invaluable gift. That is the right to take responsibility for themselves and mature on their own. Sleep in the belief that every life has its own rhythm, and everything will eventually happen exactly the way it needs to be. Lesson 5. Liberation from recognition, when you become your own only audience. Dear friend, try to look back at the years that have passed. Since being children, we have been trained to become excellent actors on the stage of expectation. We strove to study, to be praised by parents. We worked extremely hard to be approved by superiors, and we sacrificed ourselves to be considered good people by family and society. Inadvertently, we turned our lives into an endless search for nods from the outside. However, when stepping into the twilight years, a silent truth begins to clearly appear. The recognition of the world is never eternal. People may praise you today, but forget you tomorrow. Words of praise are like clouds flying across the sky, brilliant for a moment, but vanishing very quickly. I want to tell you the story about Mrs. Linda. Linda spent a full 40 years of her life living according to others' scripts. She was a filial daughter, a flawless wife, and a mother who did not mind hardships. When her children grew up and had their own horizons, Mrs. Linda stood in the middle of the silent house and suddenly fell into a deep pit of emptiness. She realized that all this time she had built a magnificent castle for others to inhabit, but let her own soul wander in the freezing cold. She stunnedly asked herself, "I have pleased the whole world, but why do I still not feel at peace?" You know, the answer lies in a profound Buddhist truth. No amount of external validation can bring you lasting peace. True liberation begins exactly the moment you bravely step outside the influence of praise and criticism. Tonight, when lying in the darkness, I invite you to perform an action of ultimate self-respect. Allow yourself to retire from the role of pleasing the whole world instead of self-questioning. Do I still have value in their eyes? Gently ask your heart, do I truly love the person I am right now? And am I living true to the values that my soul always believes in? When you no longer act as a beggar going to ask for others' approval, you will find yourself immensely wealthy. Peace does not lie in the whole world applauding for you. It lies in your silent smile when looking in the mirror every morning. Sleep in the sovereignty of a soul that has found home right inside itself, a place needing no audience, needing no judgment, only wholeness and infinite freedom. Dear friend, old age is not a retreat in silence, but a rare opportunity for your soul to be truly free. It is time you are allowed to lay down all burdens, no longer needing to prove your value, no longer having to strain yourself to please the whole world, and also stopping struggling to meet the expectations of others. Instead, choose the way of returning to take care of yourself. Engrave this truth into your mind. You cannot pour water from an empty cup. The fact that you choose to prioritize your own peace and energy is not a selfish action. It is the ultimate wisdom. Only when the cup of your soul is full of stillness can you spread that warmth to people around you in the most authentic way. Tonight, understand one final thing. Peace does not lie in how others treat you. It lies in how you choose to treat yourself. If this video has helped your heart tighten less, please help me spread this energy source with a like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. I choose myself as a sacred commitment before entering sleep. Wishing you a long, peaceful night, completely letting go, and a morning waking up radiant in the rebirth of the soul. Goodbye and see you again.